Hello YouTube, this is God of Radio Moscow here again with another beer review. Now I want to go back and do another Asian beer, which I haven't done one of these in a while, but I want to go back and talk about a one from a brewery that I've already done before. This is the Hitachino Nest Extra High. Now I've already done a video on the Hitachino Nest White Ale, which is a really good beer and I recommend you try it. But that video didn't have such good video quality, so I'll take you through the history of this brewery again in a bit more depth also. So this beer comes to you obviously from Japan, but it comes from Naka in the Ibraki prefecture in Japan, which is just about 80 miles north of Tokyo, and it's brewed by the Kiuchi Brewery, which was founded in 1823 by Kiuchi Gehei, and his family basically collected rice in the fields as a means of paying their tax to the Mito Tokugawa family, and the brewery basically started with the idea of using the remaining rice stocks that they had after they paid their taxes. This brewery incidentally is actually very interesting because they combine traditional Japanese brewing methods with European brewing equipment and techniques, so they have a really unique brewing process, and it really reflects in the taste of their beer and the experience that I've had with this brewery. But the company brews beer, sake, which is obviously rice wine, and a beverage called shochu. Now this is typically distilled from barley, sweet potatoes, buckwheat, rice and sometimes brown sugar, and it usually has an ABV of around 25%. But shochu is typically made with sakekasu, which is the main byproduct of sake brewing. Now Kiuchi was a good friend of Fujita Toku, who was one of the main activists in the revolutionary Tokugawa movement in Japanese politics, and after this movement had taken place and become prominent, he named one of his sakes Kikusakari, I'll just make sure I pronounce that right, as a respectful gesture to the emperor. But Mikio Kiuchi inherited the brewery after the Second World War in 1950, and this was a time where the Japanese economy was really growing and booming after the end of the Second World War, and at this particular stage the sake industry was growing very quickly, and at that time many companies were just scaling up their process and kind of neglecting the quality and the brewing process itself just simply to meet the demand. But the Kiuchi Brewery really prided themselves in the fact that they maintained the requirement for the brewing process and the top class ingredients basically. But the Hitachino Nest beer brand was founded in 1996 with the unique owl logo that you can see on the bottles here. But the brewery has kind of shot to fame, if you like, in the last few years because it's grabbed Japanese and international attention by winning many awards at different kind of world beer competitions. But more recently the company has been expanding into the wine brewing part of the business with the purchase. They bought some land next to the brewery to create a vineyard, and this included the import of Merlot and Chardonnay vines from France. But anyway, the other beers that this company does, they have several actually, but their main core range, as far as I could figure at the moment, includes a Weizen, which is a Hefeweizen Weiss beer, red rice ale, which is just obviously a rice ale. It comes with a red label, this one, espresso stout, sweet stout, and the white ale, which I mentioned earlier that I have reviewed before. Now I'll just let you have a little look at the bottle and cap on this one. These Hitachino beers tend to have quite a, you can obviously tell they've got a very distinctive artwork. This is one of the more plain labels, I would say. As you can see, extra high, 8%, and it has a sort of it has a little the brewery on the top on the sort of label. I'm not sure how well the camera is focusing on that. And the bottle cap on this one is obviously the little Hitachino owl. Anyway, apparently the style of this one is an 8% Belgian brown strong ale. And this one apparently uses Maris Otter, Munich, Crystal and chocolate malts, and it's hopped with Chinook and Styrian Golding hops. But without further ado, let's get on with the tasting of this beer, and I'll just open this guy up and we can have a little look at it. Just preserve my bottle cap as usual, as I like to do with my beers. There we are. This one isn't really foaming up. You can actually smell the nose of this one. It actually smells like a very wet beer so far. But let's just get this guy out. It's actually a lot brighter than I was expecting just on first inspection, but let's get it out. Try and get a bit of head on it, see how it does. There we are. So as you can see, it's a very nice kind of darkish amber colour. There's a lot of bubbles in there and a really nice kind of, it's a mix between a foamy and a bubbly head, I would say. Holding it up to the light, it's quite hazy actually. There's a fair bit of there's a fair amount of bubbles in there, I would say. In terms of the aroma, kind of getting, the first thing that comes is the grain and the yeast, I would say. But there's some sweet kind of caramel honey malts in there, I would say. And I'm getting some sort of oaky and vanilla elements to it as well. There's maybe just a little hint of spice, but the main thing I'd say is the graininess and the yeast. but also that the oak and vanilla are actually quite prominent in this one. The head on this one, incidentally, is just starting to dissipate, I'm seeing. And this is going to leave some lacing in the glass, as you can see there with moving about. But let's give it a wee taste and see. And this one, the first thing I'm getting on that first gulp is the caramel malts. Yeah, you get quite a bit of caramel malts. This is surprisingly, I'm not really getting any of the kind of, I'm not getting so much of the alcohol. You can taste it in the strength of it, but it's not too prominent, which is always good. You don't want to be overpowered with alcohol with these sort of beers. But yeah, the first thing that comes with the taste is you open up with the caramel malts. It's kind of quite sweet in the middle. You're getting the oakiness and the vanilla that I mentioned that you find in the aroma. That's coming more in the middle. And there's kind of some of the fruitiness is coming in there. I'm not quite sure whether it's, I think it's a mix between citrus and some darker fruits, maybe plums or something. I'm not quite sure. But on the end, it's quite dry actually on the end, and it's got a nice kind of hoppy kick to it at the end, and the spice that I mentioned in the aroma as well is actually coming in there. But yeah, opening up with the caramel malts, you're getting the sweetness in the middle from the vanilla and the oak, and you're also getting the fruits in there, and you've got a nice little hoppy kick to it. Actually, it seems to open up very typically for a Belgian beer, and then the flavour after you've had that first initial sip of it seems to open up, and it becomes something a bit more, like far more unusual than you would expect for this kind of Belgian style of beer. It's quite interesting as well that a Japanese brewery can do this style so well. As with Japan, personally, I would expect something a bit more kind of unique with the Japanese brewing methods, but this is a really, really nice beer as well. Hitachino, I mean, they've obviously won these awards for a reason, and you can taste it in the beer basically. This is a really, really good brewery. I've been impressed with the stuff I've had from them before. In terms of the mouthfeel, it's quite thick actually. It's got a good bit of carbonation. As I said earlier, the alcohol in it, there's no kind of burn from the alcohol, and the flavours manage to overpower the alcohol. You do get that kind of slight bit of alcohol. You can tell it's a stronger beer, but it's not overpowered by that, and that's always a good sign with these beers. Overall, I would say this is a really, really nice beer again by Hitachino. It's really cool in that sense because it starts up like a typical Belgian strong ale, but at the same time then the flavour opens up and you get something a bit more unusual with it. I'd highly recommend that you try this. In my opinion, I'd say this is more a trying beer. This isn't really particularly an easy drinking beer. It's one that more you should kind of appreciate. Just drink a little bit of it, enjoy the flavours. It's not one just to kind of go out and just drink a lot of for the sake of it. I would say with this brewery, this is really nice, and I like this one. I'll definitely have this again at some point if I see it. But if you're just trying the Hitachino brand for the first time, I would recommend that you go with the white Belgian ale. This is a really, I would say that's a really, really good starting point for this one. This one's a bit stronger, and maybe to be honest, I would just say go with, my advice would be go with the white ale first. But as I say, beer is subjective. I mean, you might like this one better than the white ale, but I would say the white ale is the best one out of the Hitachino range I've had so far. Yet this is a very, very nice beer in itself. But anyway, thanks again for watching my beer reviews. Definitely check out the Hitachino Brewery. These guys are going to be destined for great things, and indeed they've already achieved some very, very good goals with their medals and things like that. But thanks again for watching my beer reviews. Please comment and let me know your own thoughts on the beer. I'm always interested to hear what other people think of it. And please like, subscribe and share to the videos. I'll be back in the next, probably tomorrow, with another beer review. I think I have a Ukrainian beer that I'm quite interested to review for you in the next review or two. So stay tuned for that. Thanks again for watching. As I said earlier, like, subscribe, share the videos, all of that jazz. Thanks for watching, and I shall catch you soon. Cheers.